today is our 6th event of Cultural Accelerator. It's our 2nd week. And what we will have is a moderated discussion between myself and 2 of our speakers, Lidia Varbanova, who is joining us from Toronto, Canada. And she is a very renowned educator, researcher, practitioner, and she's been working and contributing in art and culture in over 60 countries. And we're very honored to have her in our program. She's also an author of several books on cultural management and project management in arts and culture, strategy development. And I enjoyed just a couple of days ago finishing her book on strategy management, and very excited to start my next book of her about entrepreneurship in arts. And we are also, our second speaker will be Oksana Sarzhevska-Kravchenko. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. She's the director of IZOLYATSIA and has a very extensive experience of working both in business field, financial reporting, as well as in managing very big, ambitious cultural projects. So we have 2 practitioners, 2 amazing women joining us today. I would like to take the chance to lead, to start first giving the presentation. And I guess what I would like to speak today is to have a very practical approach of what is project management. And I decided to make it with an example of Cultural Accelerator, because this is a project that myself and the team has been working on since October 2020. And there is a lot of behind the scene work. And I would like to start from just a very general understanding what is a project. And there are several definitions of it. Harvard Business Review calls it unique set of activities meant to produce a defined outcome within an established time frame using specific allocation of resources. Then we have another 2 descriptions. You could read that. I could read also for you. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or service. Or a project is the work performed on a unique occasion to produce a unique outcome. So what we could see from all these definitions is that we know when the project starts and when it ends. The project is very different in more or one way from anything that organization has produced before. It is constrained by time, cost, and resources. It is temporary in terms of also organizational structure, because then you form project teams. And it also requires multidisciplinary coordination, of which I will speak very briefly today. So, well, this is a graphical description of what is it and what are the main 3 constraints of the project, meaning time, scope, and cost. And as a project manager, you're always faced with certain decisions because sometimes you have a defined scope of which you are not able to go outside. You could be also constrained in time, and you have to deliver your project on time. But then there is also costs, and you have to make sure that you don't exceed your budget. And if you exceed it, then there are several ways of how to kind of mitigate it. You could either shrink the time. You can try to make things faster so that you could save costs, or you have to redefine the scope if again your budget is not able to cover all the activities you initially planned. Same could be said about time. Sometimes you optimistically think that your program could take X amount of weeks. Instead, it goes slower or faster. And again, this is project managers through their practice understand how to be more effective and result-oriented. So it's important not to confuse projects with operations. And here I put some of the visual examples, what is operational activities look like. It means like something that helps you to sustain the organization. It could be something from customer orders in museum gift shops, selling tickets for exhibitions, executing some daily inspections, making annual reports. So these are a number of also visualization of what is project. Project is something that a project could be making a new refurbishment of your space. A project is opening a gift shop or a museum cafe. Book publication is a project. Some research activities and archaeological expeditions is also a project. Here is an example of my website where I put keep track of my projects. And an exhibition like Silk Treasure that I made in Azerbaijan National Museum of Art is a project. Also an academic conference that I made in Italy a few years ago. And even without surprise, even a wedding is a project because it fits into the description I've shared with you. And you might know that now museums and cultural institutions are a very attractive place to make weddings. So just for my colleagues in Azerbaijan, keep that in mind. Now coming back to the idea of what is the project and what are the main elements of it. It's initiation, planning, execution, and closing. And these are very definite milestones, definite parts of your process. And again, speaking about Cultural Accelerator, this is like a final outcome, what we have today. Today is the session 6, one of the 13 events that we are organizing, and we made like beautiful program, nicely designed, defined which events go when, which speakers we invite, etc., etc. But behind that, there is a lot of work. So initiation stage is when you make a team formation, you set your project objectives, scope, purpose of it, and identify key deliveries. I talk about our team as the Wonder Women team because we are all women in charge of Cultural Accelerator. Here you could see in colored pictures are our colleagues from Trans-Europe Hall Network, and in black and white is the team of Dino. But also, in addition to this group of temporary, like organized team, because we are living in different countries, and with Olga and Dinara from Trans-Europe Halls, I even never met in person. So we also have other people who assist and help us, and these are some of the personnel who are based in Lund, Sweden, who initially assisted us in writing the application to scholarship, to the grant, like Hannah. We also have Georgia, who is helping us with financial documentation and support. Olga and Dinara, as I mentioned, they are in charge of communication. Ella is our capacity building manager, and my who is also managing the entire program of Cultural Accelerator. And those of you who've been in the first opening session, you have seen Jose, who's been our MC of the event. And here is big hello to my team of Tardino 6, Leslie, Olga, Azat, and Günel. So now speaking about the development of the project and our objectives. Our main objective is obviously very ambitious. We would like to develop cultural scene in Azerbaijan, but it's also very vague. The real targets that we have put is to make an online capacity building event in which you are currently taking place, to organize a hybrid event in Baku as a follow-up of these online activities. But again, we have certain idea envisioning, but how much of it could be really executed due to pandemic and to other external factors. And as our final output and result, we would like to produce an e-publication summing up the discussions we had, summing up all the creative ideas we plan to collect, and to present it to our online audience, participants, and relevant stakeholders. So here you see how the timeline goes, and we started the project in autumn 2020, and it's actually not just 1 month of online events, but the full cycle is up until autumn this year. We also had to identify the key stakeholders. Who are they? And for us, it's obviously the decision makers who are in Azerbaijan, the Ministry of Culture, National Assembly, because we want to deal with policy making and contribute to the strategy of cultural development. In reality, we have managed to establish connection with the Ministry for Culture. National Assembly is still in our wish list, as well as the Ministry of Education, but we hope to tackle them one day too, maybe not in this project. For us, our audience and the main beneficiaries of the project are the NGOs in art and culture, art cultural workers, also workers of museums, libraries, organizers of the festivals. And for us, it's important to bring in those people together to share the ideas, to have the dialogue, to put decision makers in the same virtual room with the beneficiaries, and to try to establish this conversation. Obviously, the visuals are very important. So we had this beautiful drawing by artist Babi Badalov in 2020. He gifted this to us. And what we asked Darko Kuzenjic, a designer, to create the unique key visuals for our project. Next step is also a lot of preparations of planning. So you have to develop this so-called work breakdown schedule, some Gantt charts, communication plans, risk management plans. So this is a lot of strategy. I will do it very quickly. I'm just sharing with you some of the tools I usually use myself. So one of them is Miro. You could make mind maps, charts. It's very easy to navigate. And for example, this is how I was developing the possible topics, like putting them all together. I'm also a big fan of Excel sheets. Those who know me well understand why. I used to be a strategy consultant, and Excel sheets and PowerPoint presentations were the things that I was working with most of my time. So I created this Excel sheet, and I was super excited and shared it with my team. And they were like, yes, we could contribute, we could fill this in. And if you see the work breakdown, structure is on the left. So you simply write down every single step of the activities you should take. And you also define who from your team is responsible for it, who is accountable, and who should be consulted with, and just being informed. So this is a very good exercise just to understand and to align with your team, especially when you are working remotely. But obviously, having this kind of complex Excel might not be even necessary sometimes. That's why I put this like smiley face. the easiest probably way is simply have a paper and a pen and sit down and write things. We also had a communication plan, which was developed by our colleagues from Trans-Europe Halls. Olga Rudak was working very hard on this together with Dinara, and this is one of the examples of this document. And we have created this MailChimp newsletter. You have signed up for it, and sometimes you also receive weekly announcements and reports about new week coming, what is going on Cultural Accelerator. You could subscribe to it. That would be the best way for you to be aware of what is going on. We have our website and all the important information is there. It's both on Tech and on Tardino website. We created a Telegram channel just also to be in touch with our subscribers. Sometimes people are more keen of checking their cell phones with WhatsApp and Telegram notifications rather than checking their emails. So we decided to tackle this too. These are our Instagram accounts, and you see that there is a lot of similarity on what we share on both Trans-Europe Halls and Tardino Instagram pages. And this is because all our communication is aligned. We try to put information simultaneously. And if, for example, you click on the link in bio of Tardino, you end up to see the whole package of Cultural Accelerator currently going on, including registration to upcoming sessions. And once the session is over, we take it down from our list, obviously. And speaking about sharing the information, if you type in this very simple link, bit.ly link, which is on the top of my screen, CA_pack, you end up having all the key visuals and key information that you could also disseminate on your social media in 3 languages. And by that, you help us to reach out our audience and our supporters and share with your friends and colleagues important information. Again, another part is risk management. So what do you do to manage risk? What we did is we made this risk management plan. Again, this might be too much of work, but it's really helpful, in which you write down, for example, in our hybrid event, all possible risks that could take place and how we try to mitigate them and how we assess it. Is it low, is it medium, or is it high? And if it's high in particular, we really need to think what to do as a substitute. So we put a number of things like logistic challenges due to Formula One if we do a physical event. So we will think about a place, an area outside of F1 route. We thought about some key stakeholders not being able to join us, what we will do then. We thought about logistics and especially curfew. If there is any problem with pandemic, what we would do, would we again do an online activity, and so on. Another thing is, once you planned all of this, you have to do some execution. You develop some status and tracking metrics. You develop the key performer indicators or KPIs. You do quality checks, and you also do some forecast, and you also adjust. It's also important. It's good to stick to your plan, but sometimes reality is different. So you really need to adjust yourself. And this again, the timeline of our activities and how it worked and in which areas did we engage the key stakeholders, in our case, Ministry of Culture. And there are a number of people from the Ministry of Culture organizations attending this event. And this is due to the fact that we got in touch in advance informing about this event, and Ministry found it useful to colleagues, to their employees also to be aware and to engage in this capacity building activities. And again, session 8 for us, it's a session where not only we will speak, but we will listen to, and it's where we will be brainstorming of what to do next and how our Baku event should look like. So please join, subscribe to our Telegram channel, because there we will be announcing in which platform it will take place. And we also have to think about what are the results and how do we measure them. So for us, both quantitative and qualitative results are important, and we have listed some of them, as you see here, the diversity, gender balance, how many people we would like to have. And here, for example, we targeted 80 participants per online event, but usually we have between 4 to up to 5.5 times more participants. Right now we have 420 in the room, which is like a huge amount of people. So thanks a lot for being with us. And I would like to finalize the presentation with the project punch list and archiving and reporting. It's very important to make sure that not only you do the project well, but you also do have a good archivation of it. And for us, everything is done on Google Drive. We put it together. And again, if my presentation was fast and you still have questions, feel free to contact, and I'm also happy to share this presentation with you. So thanks a lot. And I think that now I would like to give the floor to Lidia Oksana, sorry. I would like to give the floor to Oksana, because she will be continuing the conversation and speaking about her experience. Thank you.
Asli, thank you very much for your input and sharing the information how you are working. The work is exciting, and I really understand how big and with all very thoughtful steps all your work was described, because I understand how much of efforts it took to make the big projects, and even if you have small projects, it takes not less time anywhere. So let me share a bit in other way the information about projects. So now I will share my presentation. So I will try to speak with you about the project, but not only like this is something difficult or takes too much efforts. Of course, it takes a lot of efforts, but still we need to think how to do it interesting for you, for your team, especially if the team is not big. And I understand how sometimes it takes too much time, and sometimes you can feel you that like you are ensorced. But how to avoid this, how to have a look on your project with a fun, and how to take benefits. Of course, it's possible. And every time I'm working with my team, I'm talking about not the projects, but about the business models, because on my opinion and in the real life, all the projects is about all what you do in your real life, all what is connecting to business models. So in reality, if you are working with your project, you always need to think about how your project is looking outside, why your project is interesting for your donors, for your partners, for your audience. And so it's very important and useful sometimes to think about the project, not only about something non-for-profit, but mostly for something about like business. Yes, of course, you don't earn money, but you are working with a project, and you need to be attractive, be so interesting for your audience and partners. So, and to be the best in your field. So for this to be more successful, I always suggest to work in 2 areas with project. For instance, you can see on my presentation that there are 2 moments that you need to think when you are starting the project. At first, project can be on a phase of planning. So, or project can be on a phase of implementation. Of course, the overall scheme is the same, like Asli already told you about initiation, planning, execution, and closing. And all of these steps you will be describing in your project cycle. But having a look on only planning when you are developing your project, you may have only like not the full team, or you're developing your project with 1 team, and then the project will be implemented with another team. And in this phase, you need to understand how to describe as more precise as you could the project, because all the steps which were mentioned by Asli in our project description, activities what will should be done. All this is extra important on both phases, planning and implementation. From practical aspect, for me, it's extra important because I faced several times the situation when we developed the plan with 1 team and then implemented with another one. And we have several times the situation when some senses were trying to be lost, because every new team can understand the project a bit others. And for you, for your organization, to be sure that all will be on the same level as you were on the idea putting. So in this way, you need to be more close on the phase of planning to the phase of implementation. So, and to be more successful, every time I'm talking about team and time management, budgeting and reporting and evaluation. Of course, other steps of project life are extra important as well, but without these 3, as to me, you can't be a success. You can't work without your team, and you need to be sure that even if you have only 2 or 3 persons in your team, you can work with extra big projects. For instance, Izolyatsiya team, we are only 8 people. We are a small one, but it's a core team, which is small. And then we have extra team, we are calling them project team, who is joining us for developing a variety of our project that Izolyatsiya has. So having a small team, you can develop projects, develop ideas, and then start your other projects. And for other projects on the phase of implementation, you can invite other part of your teams. And in case all the procedures of your institution, of your organization is very described in your documentation, how you are working, how you are, what kinds of communication you will have. So all the process, if you have the instructions, then for you it will be most better to share the documentation, and you will spend less time for new team, for introduction your procedures to new team. For instance, speaking about the team of Izolyatsiya, so we have a lot of described detailed procedures, and every time new person is or volunteer is joining to us, one of our team members is sharing all the instructions like guidebook about our procedures, about our models, how we are working, code of conduct, etc. How we are planning the budget, how we are doing reporting, etc., etc. And then even we started to have some video presentations to make the easiest life for our new members. And then it helps us to avoid much time explaining how we are working. Of course, without all this, you can't make forward for project implementation in a full speed. Speaking about time management, we always are trying to work with different programs. Asli made some samples. For instance, for Izolyatsiya, we are working with Asana, Confluence, Slack, and of course, Google Drives, etc. We have it as well. But for us, as we are already more than 10 years old organization, we need to think about archives and how to collect all the information we had during all the projects we implemented. And this archive is extra important, not only for the core team, but as well for new team members, because you can't develop new projects without having some bull points from other projects you conducted. Then having a look on how the project is building, the main brick for me is budgeting and reporting. A bit later in some next slides, I will explain you why I'm so precise on budgeting and reporting, because you can work very great in with activities, but somebody of your team need to be experienced with accounting, because this person will help you not to come out of your budget, can help you think about budget lines, how to describe them, how to choose the best option of for instance, for taxation situation, etc., etc. Because, for instance, if you are working only in your own country, it can be one situation with taxation issue. If in case you will have international projects, so then it can be another story. And in this case, the team need to have a very good accountant or financial person. And then every time I'm emphasizing about evaluation, because this will be the most one of the core issue of your success for your project, because evaluating need to be done not on the end of the project, but on all the cycle of your project as well, because otherwise you can't find some problems, or you will not be in time with some covering or answering new, when you will face some new situation in the project. It can be some risks situation, etc. So every time evaluating how you're working with your team, how time is used, how budget is spent. So every time evaluation and is needed. So the next one. And as already mentioned, every time I'm talking about business for project models, because this will bring new attitude to your team, how you're looking on the project. Of course, you will see in the next slides the detalization, how it's working and how it's looking, but with whom you are working and what are you doing is extra of the importance. With this slide, you can see the business model, and I'm sure that this will be shared with you as well for your information. And with this link, you will have the full access to the book describing all this issue. So it's for you. Having a staff, we have also working with volunteers, and with time management, we are every time looking on how we are working, with what programs, and we are scheduling our projects as well. Yeah. And as to the budget, because it's mostly the end of my speech for now, before the Q&A session, every time very practical issue is to think on the budget planning, because this is a teamwork as project manager and curator and financial manager or accountant can only successfully work together. And budget is planned on a principle of necessity expenses for future reporting to match the budget lines. If you will have some questions towards this, then I can explain more during the Q&A session. And extra for your information that budget does not live independently. It needs always to be under the control. So, and evaluation every time on your life cycle. Yeah, for this, as well as the next link. And thank you very much for your time, and I'm eager to have the questions during Q&A session. Thank you. And maybe a floor to Lidia.
Thank you very much, Oksana. Amazing presentation, very nice. And I see that it comes from your great experience in doing successful projects. I also work as a project manager, but consultant as well, with a variety of organizations from the European Commission projects, also UNESCO projects, the International Fund for Cultural Diversity, the projects of the Ministries of Culture, including Bulgaria and also Canada, many other countries. So what I'm going to share is, in a way, my experience as a person who is evaluating projects. Asli was very right saying that a project, when we say a project, we mainly mean projects of not-for-profit organizations and organizations that apply for money. But of course, there could be individual projects, there could be projects to like renovate my room, to go for vacation, to marry, variety of angles on which we look at project management. I'll share a few tips, not more than 10 minutes, 9 slides, which all the colleagues and friends who participate here are going to also have at disposal after the session, including also the recording. And also I would like to say to the non-Azerbaijani friends and colleagues, please connect with these wonderful people in the country. I have had the pleasure to be in Azerbaijan for many events and many projects, and I have amazing friends there from variety of sectors, from the business, not-for-profit, and also governmental sector. So amazing place to keep in contact and eventually visit one day after the pandemic. So I would start a little bit of continuation of what Oksana and Asli said, that every project is in a way a problem-solving technique, because by project management and putting projects, we would like to really help the society and others. We would like to see what is the issue and how through culture and arts we can actually solve out a specific problem in our societies, in our city, in our region. And actually our projects have to make the world a better place. This is exactly why we make it. And I believe in success of the project, of course, but for me, success means that you have to feel happy, because a creative project makes us actually very happy. When we evaluate, when we do a project, we have to look at this variety of viewpoints. What is my organization and my team actually going to be happy about? How we are going to please the funders and what are their priorities? And also, what is the relevance to the current world and what is our strategic approach? Where do we actually want to see our project in 5 or 10 or even 50 years from now? Because we are aiming at multi-years projects and we would like to see the sustainability. Couple of general tips. We have to also look at the executive summary. When I start evaluating projects, the first thing I see is this 1 page or half a page of an executive summary, which has to combine everything what we have included in like the 10, 20 or 50 pages together. This is a very important thing. Then we have to emphasize the uniqueness. What is the advantage of what we do in comparison with other organizations and projects? So believe in the uniqueness and make sure that you really try to put it in great wording in the project proposal. Also, try to make a coherence between the objectives, the methodology, and the results. Many projects fail because when you read the project, you actually can't get this sense of connectivity between these three things. Believe in what you do, and also why do you do it? This is why I put in red on the slide, why do we do what we do? So believe in the reason and the mission of the project, also for the local community as well as for the world. So the project have to have this connection between the global and the local and vice versa. And write the project, make the project, and also report on the project with a joy. It's not like with the feeling, oh my God, now I have to do that. No, it has to be really very, very, very happy endeavor of what we are doing. Couple of tips on the project methodology. The project methodology actually is what we do, with whom we do it, how we do it, and then again, the connection between the objectives and the final results. It's very important to explain it in an easy to understand language. I have read many projects in my life, and I see that there are people who are very good at putting the buzzwords like la 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 and what the funder wants, and they are very good in playing with the buzzwords, which is great, but then not that much, because we have to be very simplistic in the language how we write the project, and at the same time using carefully the keywords of the project funders. It's also very important to split the project into phases of development, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 10 phases, but to be very clear what are the interim deliverables and how they're connected with the final objectives and deliverables as well. It's also very important to show a structure and effective partnership. Many projects are great, but then they do not really show how do you engage the others, your organization and your immediate stakeholders, but also the in a way the competitors, all the rest of the organizations in the society with whom you work, the medias as well, the indirect stakeholders, as we call them. So make sure that it's very clear in your project proposal, how do you connect with the stakeholders and how do you engage them, both from local and also international level. Several tips about your marketing and communications part of the project proposal. Mind the terminology, because we use all these words like target groups and market segments, beneficiaries, audiences. So for the not-for-profit projects, we put much more stress on beneficiaries, on the impact, on the outreach. And this is a language for the NGO world. When we work on business projects, which obviously in this session, we won't have time to talk about the other dimension of the projects, which is the business and the entrepreneurial projects. But for this type of projects, it's very important to look at market segments, to look at competitive advantage, to look at the proposition, the unique selling proposition, to look at not just the impact, but how these audiences are going to become our clients and the people who are going to pay for us. It's not just to have the wider outreach and impact. Very important to elaborate a media plan. We undermine this sometimes, but a media plan means how do we connect with every single part of the project and the interim deliverables? How do we connect the medias and both traditional and also the social medias? It's not enough to just put a very nice list of links. Oh, we're going to do Facebook campaign and we're going to do Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and all those new medias. No, we have to be very clear. Why do we choose this specific social media, not the other ones, this social network and not the other one? Emphasize on the digital marketing. Being digital does not just mean making a website or making a Facebook page. It means a whole new set of competencies and a mindset to go into the digital dimension. So the more we read, the more we understand the digital dimensions, the more we're going to be effective of putting them into practice. And mind the strategic approach. Look at the trends, because maybe what is happening today is not going to be the network for tomorrow. So look at the trends, subscribe for newsletters, for variety of ongoing online discussions about the trends in the digital marketing, because we have to be one step ahead from the others. Several tips about the organizational matters. Every project, when we apply and when we do it, have this internal, as I call it, behind the stage management. Literally yesterday, I heard about a new position, which is a digital back-end manager, backstage manager. Amazing position. You see, we go much more online, and there are new jobs that are appearing, which I find fascinating, even if it is frightening, is actually fascinating. So in the operational matters of the project, try to make sure that before even putting the project proposal to a funder, you have very good connections with your partners, and you are equally motivated to really enter this strategic collaboration, be it like a consortium or in another way working together, because the funder wants to see that you have invested significant amounts of efforts to work together. It's not just one person or one organization is doing a project and put a couple of names so that they can really show up as a team. No, you have to have a good collaboration in advance. The proof of the credibility for the organizations and the team is also very important. You have to show sufficient, very good credible CVs, and also people and organizations who have capacity and they have also competencies to work in the project, including also volunteers. Volunteering matters a lot in the not-for-profit sector, so don't undermine it. The split of the tasks and responsibilities, and I'm happy that Asli showed you a variety of ways by which we use the online tools for internal management, also visualizing how we split the responsibilities between ourselves, and looking at the whole internal structure and the quality control. In culture, it's very hard, very hard to prove what is quality, what is not quality, because the quality matters depending on who is considered this or that as a quality. But try to look at your criteria and your measurement of the quality control. And also, do you need any permissions? Any permissions to make an event in the park? Any permissions to work with the municipality? Any permission for import-export? Any logistical matters that are related with your facilities? Because sometimes this can be a very serious burden of stopping your project if you do not work on it. So together with all the risk dimensions, which Asli mentioned, look also at this part of the operational matters. 2 more minutes. Budgeting, important area. Public organizations and NGOs, we do work with the money of others. Never forget that. If we are not a business organization, if we are not our own entrepreneurial venture, we work with the money of others. This is why we have to be very conscious about the budgeting, reporting on the budgets, being transparent on the budgets, and having a realistic budget. If we are in Mongolia, it's not the same like if we're in Vancouver. Budgeting and prices are completely different. What we have to try to strive for in the culture sector worldwide is to be equally paid as consultants, as people who are project managers, even if we work on a local level, because our competence matter and our skills and our background also matter. Proof of the self-financing is also very important for many funders. They want to see that you invest also in the project, your own organization. You really pull your own money. You have an incl contribution from your staff, because they want to see that you're serious. If the 100% budget are asked from the external sources, this project has a very little chance to succeed. Connect very well the budget items with the planned activities. And I think this is where majority of the projects fail, because it's very hard for them to find this connection between the interim final deliverables and then putting everything in an Excel sheet in money. And finally, try to make this split of the budget very equal. The fact that you're a project coordinator organization does not mean that you have to have 90% of the budget. You can have majority of the budget, but you have to equally split between your partners. And my final words, mind the sustainability. The financial sustainability is something very important, but also the sustainability of your partnership, because you are going to work with these people maybe for 1 to 3 years on the project, but you have to make all your best to become friends for many years to come, because this is the treasury of our life, making this friendship for long periods of time. And emphasize on the operational side of the project continuation, how this project is going to continue after the money is finished. Asli mentioned about the results, and she had a great slide of connecting the qualitative and quantitative results. I would add to this, mind also the external and internal results. The results in terms of marketing, operations, audience development, partnership. How do we see all those results of the project in a very tangible way? Because we in culture are great in an intangible results. Let's make the world a better place. But it's very important to calculate. It's very important to put the numbers together with the figures and together with this great idea. So this is where I finish. Exactly 10 minutes, and I look forward for your questions. Please join me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. Look at my website, and I'm more than happy. If we do not have time now to answer the questions and comments, I'll be more than happy in more personalized sessions to do that for you. Thank you very much once again. Great to be with you, and let's go for the Q&A session. So Asli, the word is back to you.
I learned myself so much, both from our preparation session and also from today's live event. And I hope that it's the same for our participants. And we do indeed have a number of questions, of which I would like to pick few. So we have several questions linked to the idea of success and where, as a young art professional or cultural sector worker, a person should start, and which skills is needed in order to work in this or project management in arts, and what would you recommend to develop from your personal experience as well?
I would like to say here that this situation we faced many times in Izolyatsiya, when new young people join our team for having a new skills. And that's why I'm very recommending every time to have a look on the organization you are very like, to whom you are have to whom you will come every time, and who is like a not idol, but who you like very well. And in this you need to be ready to start and join every initiative. Maybe for us, most successful our new team members were who were very eager in or sometimes passion joining every our projects. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Obviously, sometimes you will not have some information how to do it, but the team is really willing to share their knowledges. So please only come to your interesting organization and ask, suggest your support, and you will find a lot of possibilities for your own growth. So be interesting on it.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree, Oksana. Very good tip. I would like to add to this, where from to start, okay? You graduate university or you don't have any education and you want to do a project. Start with the idea. There is always space for a new idea. Many people say, oh, everything is already written, everything is already done. That is not true. Every single minute across the world, there are hundreds of thousands of great ideas appearing. The thing is, start with the idea and make it happen. Never just keep it in your mind for a longer period. Find one person to share with, and this is where you start from, because two persons make a difference. And then be flexible, Be an ongoing learner. I myself learn all the time. My new passion now is environmental management in the arts. And I'm going to write a new book, which hopefully is going to be on the market next year. I learn all the time, all my life, and I find it fascinating because this is exactly what we have to do. Learning, sharing, and keeping your curiosity all the time. And my final tip to the youngsters when they start working for an organization is look at the organizational life cycle. Because if this is a small team, you can really make changes very easy. You can put your mindset, you can implement ideas very fast. But if this is a monstrous big 150 people organization or 300 people opera company or a ministry of culture which has existence for over 80 years, it is impossible to do a change overnight. So don't rock the boat. So think about where you start your working environment, because the environment matters very much.
I think we could take two more questions, and very closely to the previous one is the question about education and how and what should be taught at universities in order to have like practical approach. And the question comes especially from, it's very important for Azerbaijan, as our audience member asks, what could be advised to educational institutions in the country?
I'll start maybe because I'm so passionate about education. I think education changes the world. And I'm really happy to hear and also to experience in the last few years that Azerbaijan is really very proactive, including this great project on culture management, which is amazing. We do need it in the educational institutions like universities and academia, but also as training and postgraduate courses for training and advancing. My advice to this is think very carefully what is needed for the country, because the needs are very different. This could be one thing in Azerbaijan, completely another thing for Canada, the third thing for Romania or Bulgaria. Think about what are the needs of your people and start with a very nice feasibility study, maybe a questionnaire, maybe looking at the needs and the trends, and then based on that, elaborate a course. Course on project management in culture is also very important to have in the curriculum, but the dimension of this course could be different. This could be more global perspective, could be more European perspective, could be more the perspective of entrepreneurial projects, and then connect your education with practice. Invite practitioners as guest lecturers, bring your students to specific cultural organizations to learn, make much more internship, try to connect the training with specific case studies approach, also with role-playing in class. I am myself trying to adapt now in the online learning environment. And I also do a lot of role-playing and a lot of case studies analysis in class, which if this is an offline learning would be great. But if this is online, we definitely miss this approach of group approach, and then also practical matters. But we are adapting and we have to take it as it is. So these are my couple of tips to our colleagues who would like to either start a course or they already have one.
Oksana, can you speak from your perspective?
Lidia told very right, but maybe only one point from my side, that every time, for instance, in Ukraine, we are missing the enough amount of practice for people who are studying culture, because sometimes it's very like so-called nominative, or so very quick or fast one. During 1 week, it's impossible to get some real knowledges during for project management, etc. So if in your country, like in my country, you are facing the same situation, it's only the situation towards our students, how to be more active yourself, and how to interact on some summertime, and how to have some internship. Believe me, organizations are very interesting in you, in your skills, in your minds and brains. And so, speaking about Izolyatsiya, every time we are very happy to have new people who are eager to join culture. So it's like only to start.
Speaking about work and life balance, and obviously there is a quite big stress, especially from the external factors when you have to adjust to the changing environment, and how and what would be the tips in order to create that work and life balance within your team. And I think it would be great that you, Oksana, answer this one, and later I would follow with a question to Lidia.
I will not lie, every time working with non-for-profits and working with Izolyatsiya, working with another non-for-profits, and especially with young one, every time I'm facing the teams are ensourced, because working with not easiest topics like human rights, which the culture can cover, or gender topics, every time it brings some kind of stress situation, because it can be a lot of such cases. But only one good tip can be here, how to avoid such stress, or how to minimize this. It's to find your team, because every time you are working on the project, you need to believe and trust your team. And even you are small, you need to understand what kind of capacity each person in your team has, because otherwise you will be, for instance, your package of capacity can be more higher than of your colleague. And in this case, the lead project manager need to feel and have the understanding not to lose their team. So in my recommendation, it's to have the big understanding with whom you're working, what are you doing, and what kind of capacity every person in your team has. And of course, try to find a time for rest. Please sleep in the nights, not work. Maybe Lidia.
Very good tip, Oksana. I see that you have experience in stressful situations. What I would add, let's be honest. We cannot avoid stress. It's every day, every week, every month, every year. Sometimes more, sometimes less. My advice, what I do, first of all, I try to analyze what is the cause of the stress and how much I can influence, because some stress factors depend on you, others depend on the external environment, as we call it. So what is the cause of the stress? What is the reason? So the more you analyze, the more you will understand, can you change or you cannot? And what can you implement to change? And if you cannot change, then you just cope with it. The second thing is, majority of the stress situations are because of time. People say, I don't have time. I don't have time to this. I don't have time to this. I'm overloaded. And the overload is actually the cause of the stress. So my second advice, manage the time and put yourself into this time frame. As Oksana said, sleep, but also think about what makes you happy. If you have 7, 8, 10, 14 hours of work, then spend the 10 minutes about myself. Is it going to the park, walking, having a nap, yoga, meditation, maybe playing piano, maybe learning guitar, maybe singing, maybe drawing? What makes me happy? Because the happiness is a very important factor to decrease the stress. Never undermine that nobody gives you time. Everybody wants time from you. The only person who can give time to you is yourself. So never, ever forget that.
Wonderful advice. I could only add that I recently discovered this program called The Science of Wellbeing. It's a free course of Yale, very popular, especially during pandemic. It's 10 weeks, and I strongly recommend you to take it because it says a lot of practical and easy things. I also would like, there are a few questions addressed specifically to you, Lidia, and I hope you don't mind if I read them. There is one coming from Viviana, and the question is about your work as a consultant for the cultural, it comes from Samantha, sorry. What is like working as a consultant in cultural sector, and how do you cope with this, and how, because normally when we work in cultural sector, the work is either expected to be on a voluntarily basis, or it's, and I also speak on about myself, also coming from the strategy consultant, there's quite often when you are expected to do things for free, or you as on a voluntary basis, and without any economic remuneration for the work, and but you also are required to contribute a lot of hours in cultural projects. And what would be your tips on how to deal with this kind of requests?
Great answer, which I'm actually happy, because this means that there are people who are either working as consultants or they want to be consultants in the culture sector, which is great. Working as a consultant is fascinating because it's a freelancing job. On another hand, it's also an entrepreneurial job. If you make it an entrepreneurial job, that will be great, because it means that you have to involve others. It's not just freelancing. I always involve others in whatever I do, and I try to also help them to advance, because our mission is not just to position ourselves as consultants and lecturers and trainers and coaches, but to also transmit the knowledge once when we have it. The dark side is the fluctuation and uncertainty, because there might be periods where you're well paid and where you're like booming and blossoming, and then there are other gloomy periods where you're like, oh my God, how should I pay my electricity, or how should I feed my kids, which is absolutely normal. So this is why when you have a good money for a project, try to not overspend them, but you have a kind of money aside, as we call it, so that you can manage with the periods where you have less. My tip to everybody who would like to start consulting work is make your branding, make your uniqueness, because there are hundreds of thousands of people who teach project management. There are millions of people maybe who are very good at marketing in digital world, or marketing in arts and culture. What is your uniqueness? Because your client is going to pay the bill if they see that there is something in you specifically which is different than the others. So making your branding in a very good way is maybe the first step to do. And the final thing, the paid and non-paid work, we have to contribute to our societies. There is no way around. This is why we are in culture. This is why we stay now here. And we have over, I don't know, maybe 250 people online who are spending this hour and a half with us instead of going and working for a bank. So there must be a reason why we are together. And this reason is that we believe in arts, we believe in culture, we believe in our societies. But there is a big but. Make a very good selling point for yourself. This is what my hour cost if I work for a big institution, if I work for the government, for the international organizations, for a rich client, for the business world. This is my price. And then continue volunteering for the NGOs in Africa, for the women organizations in Tajikistan, for the developing countries, because they cannot pay. I have done a lot of volunteering work in my life, and this is what I always balance. Your price depends on the client, but at the same time, you have to also spend some free time, because whatever you do and you volunteer, it's really returning to you in one or another way.
Indeed, I cannot agree more with what Lidia has said. And I would like to wrap up today's session with final question that I would love to hear answer from both of you. It's about funding cultural projects and what are the current challenges and how we could cope with this situation. So maybe if Oksana could speak from her experience and give some practical tips first.
Yeah, maybe I will give only one good sample. When you have already your image, when you are finished even first of your project, you need to think about partnering. And the more partners you have, so it means more situation you will have for next funding. For instance, you know 5 people, and these people can potentially be your partners for another projects. And if you have some partners in different countries, it's better because every country has another variety of proposals for projects funding. So in our case, we are using 2 models. For instance, for Izolyatsiya, one is to write grants ourselves with our partners. It's most significant part for our team working with grants, and but nevertheless we are trying to have the business models who can support our institution from other ways. I will maybe, if somebody will be interested in this, I can continue answering in some mails. I will be happy to do it. But the most tip from my side is to have more connections, to have more partners, because this will give you new information, new practical issues for your team, new knowledge, and another way, it brings money as well. So very practical
Partnership is the #1 in culture. We cannot survive alone. So sharing, looking at expanding our partnership from local to global and international is terribly important. Many people hesitate to do partnership because they say, oh, they're going to steal my idea, you know, I'm going to share, and then somebody takes the idea and make it happen. Especially in countries that people are much more individualistic, because it also depends from the country. Some countries are much more open in working in communities and sharing and collaborating. In other countries, we see much more individualistic approach to what people are doing because they're really hesitant. They feel the fear of competition. So my advice is share. In some cases, you can do all the intellectual property options if there is a good legislation in your country to protect your idea, if that's possible. But protecting your idea, even with the intellectual property options, is not preventing others to copy it. It makes it illegal, but it doesn't prevent it. So my advice is keep the idea, but also share it with others. And 2 more, diversify your portfolio. Very important, your financial portfolio. Never rely just on one source of financing or funding. If this is the Ministry of Culture, or this is a great sponsor, or this is an amazing donor, never rely on one source. Even if this is your own money and the money of the organization, even if you have $200, it's just better to go and invest it in 2 banks and open 2 accounts rather than 1, because you never know what's going to happen. So diversifying the portfolio is very important. And finally, invest yourself to start. My advice is never start by asking others. Invest first your $100, $50, $500, whatever you have. Even if there is something to sell in your home, I mean, not selling your apartment, obviously, and putting jeopardizing your family. But look at something which you can invest first, because if the other people see that you have done the first investment, they are going to join. They're going to join. Even if this is a not-for-profit organization, they'll say, oh, wow, these people are serious, because they already have their first investment on themselves. And then step by step, you can involve others. You can involve others also by being so passionate about your project, because the passion brings the money. It's never vice versa. Money doesn't bring passion. And believe me, I've been working with so rich people in my life. Money doesn't bring passion, but vice versa is very important. Passion brings the money. And the partnership, what Oksana said.
The points that both of you have raised, both about the partnership and necessity to have partners, especially when you do big projects and when you want to get big results, it's always good to be a part of big network or engage partners from different countries, because by doing that, from being local, you start becoming international, regional. And also the thing that Lidia, you mentioned, that you should not be relying only on one source of funding. This is particularly valid for Azerbaijan, in where like all government organizations, they are funded, they have centralized budget, and then it is allocated to various cultural institutions. And obviously there are a few questions related to this. This could be fixed only with the change of the policies, with the change of the governance, and it takes more time. And you, as whoever asked this question, you have the power to explain why you and your cultural organization needs your own budget and you needs a hands-on approach, management of your own money. Obviously, it also brings a lot of risks and responsibilities, because when somebody is responsible not only of managing the projects, but also from funding the projects, you always have to be challenged with where you will get the money, especially if the government is no more funding you, a museum, a library. So, and we see that a lot, especially in Anglo-Saxon world, where the institutions get less and less, each year they get less and less government support, and they have to be more entrepreneurial, they have to be more proactive, and it's not easy. Actually, this past year, 2020, taught that it was probably better to have government jobs in culture rather than to be independent cultural worker, because every month those who work on government jobs get their paychecks, which is not the case for independent art institutions. And here I would like to give an homage to every single independent cultural worker and organizations, both within Trans-Europe Halls network and outside of it, because we struggle and strive every day to not only show that we are relevant, but also show and find ways to fund ourselves. And sometimes we don't even get paid. We have to invest the small budgets we have into projects. And when it comes to paying salaries, we ended up to be volunteering for the organizations, which is not the best for the sustainability, but this is the reality, at least for today. And with this words, I would like to wrap up today's session. It was a bit longer than we scheduled because of so many interesting questions, and I really felt obliged to ask them all. And I would like to give a floor to Lidia and Oksana if you have any final words.
Lidia, thank you. I would like only to thank to Asli, Lidia, for all of the participants for the questions. It was a very useful time even for me, because like every time sharing my knowledge, I get much more getting new information from my colleagues, and even rethinking the questions we have from audience. It shows that every time you are facing some situation, you are not alone. Others needs the same support, the same answers on the situation you faced with. So thank you for this very informative session.
This is not final words, because I'm sure that with many of you and also the people who are listening and watching, we are going to continue online and hopefully offline as well. I would like to give the final nice optimistic view. Never give up, and believe that your idea is going to meet the world. Hopefully in a post-pandemic situation. Stay healthy, smiling, very inspiring. Make yourself happy, because if you make yourself happy, you're going to make the world happy. Thank you so much to the whole team for this amazing day, to me morning, actually in Montreal. Keep in touch, stay connected, and hopefully we're going to see each other in the next sessions of this great project, Cultural Accelerator, and visit Sofia to meet our friends and colleagues also in the National Academy of Theatre and Film Arts. Thank you.